guys, welcome back to another episode of Get Rich Podcast. For today, and we're gonna cap off our mini series of investing, trading with trading. Okay, because we know that's something that we nerd out with this topic. So let's discuss.
Go back to our core competence.
Ano ba yung main difference ng isang professional trader and retail trader? Kasi 'di ba we advocate investing for all people, for a day-to-day person, and sa trading ba, is there like a difference between a professional and a retail trader?
I feel like the reason why many individuals go into trading, it's because it's very easy to learn, but very difficult to master.
To make it, yeah.
And I put that analogy because all you need is a laptop and an internet connection. Then you have access to all these different stocks and then opportunity at your fingertips, right? But again, going back to your question on retail versus professional, where I think the biggest difference lies is people think in trading you only need charts and it's easy for you to make a decision. And it's true because the feedback can be instant.
Instant, yep.
Meaning, kung tama ka, kita ka. Kung mali ka, sorry ka na lang. Diba? But from a professional standpoint, yes, there are many opportunities that will come your way. But I really do believe that we're very selective in how we do our process. And our framework, from an overarching perspective, is called FTSR, which is F for fundamentals, T for technicals, S for sentiment, and R for risk management. We actually look at each piece very, very cohesively. And we're looking for specific indicators that will probably give everything a go signal. Right? And many times, for example, like with sentiment, the signal is always negative, meaning don't do anything, don't do anything, don't do anything. But as a trader, if you're looking at stuff every single day, thinking that there's going to be opportunity every single day, which there might be, don't get me wrong, sometimes you're not in that right environment and you keep on pushing in that difficult environment, you will go through what we call quicksand, where the more you do, the more you lose. And it becomes a never-ending cycle, thinking that, okay, we're waiting for that next good trade. Sige, dadating din yan. One good trade. Pag tingin mo, wala ka na palang bala.
Yep.
Tapos mentally, emotionally, pagod ka na.
Pagod ka pa.
You're wiped out of the game.
Yeah.
Right? And that's what I feel is the biggest difference behind a retail and professional, is the retail is only trying to understand that one portion. What it feels like to get that winner. What is that winner? I'll try every day. Let's look for that winner every single day until we get that winner. Which for me is because you're not putting in the process delicately and intentional and putting in the proper framework and foundation into that single trade. I feel that's the biggest difference behind someone from an amateur and from somebody who's been here for long periods of time. But don't get me wrong, the one who has experienced this for long periods of time also went through that cycle of just, syempre, you won't be able to see things unless you try it, diba?
I think when it comes to being a professional trader, like you mentioned, may process eh. And you guys have been here for so many years already. Maybe you could walk us through how did the FTSR framework came about?
Okay, that's actually a good question, because the very beginnings and the humble beginnings of CTS was like an amateur trader. Puro wild west yan eh. And the markets were very fresh, very new, 1990s all the way to early 2000s. And when things break out, it really breaks out. Tuloy-tuloy yan eh.
Textbook pag nag-breakout.
Pag breakout talaga yan eh. Coming through 1998, 1999, and 2000, what it would say is the first forthcoming of CTS Global, first stage of CTS Global, because boss was hiring anybody across the street. And his goal was to have 100 traders trading US market. Because we did so well in 1998, 1999 in the tech bubble. And we did even better on the way down, shorting the market. And we grew from, I think, 20 to 100 traders in that span. We had a huge office. I didn't even make it. And we had a Bloomberg terminal on every single aisle. And just for everybody to know, one Bloomberg terminal today, I think, is close to
30?
$2,000 a month today. And we had 10 and sitting on each aisle for those 10 traders. And we did well on the boom and the bust, where the traders died was post 2001, 2002, where the next 3 years the market just went into a no interest period. Sounds familiar because that sounds exactly like the Philippines, where for 10 years hindi na siya umakyat. Every time bumalik ka ng breakout, bumabalik. Breakout, bumabalik. Pagka breakout after the 5th or 10th time, pagod ka na.
Pagod ka na, wala na.
Wala ka na. Right? That's exactly our stage, first forecoming of CTS. Because after that, we closed everything down. We cut that number of traders and then we had to do CTS Global 2.0. And that's the reason why post that 2000 was really that building of foundation and process about why it actually worked. I mean, fortunately for us, we are traders by nature and nurture, in my opinion, because we've been here individually, and Boss individually has done extremely well also in the stock market. And that's the reason why we're able to jot down and figure out which processes, right, actually made sense, right? And that's the reason why we listed that 4, FTSR, right? So the technical portion just became one element of trading, right? And for me, technical analysis is all about understanding human behavior. To be fair to fundamentals, part of it is also understanding human behavior and why things work that way and why people value these stuff this way versus something else not. At the same time, that human behavior should also be reflected in share price, right? Why do people are speculating on it? Why are people in that speculation mood? So for example, people have been gone in the markets for 10 years and then people start speculating in the market. You think totoo na, but in reality, the pullbacks are going to be deep.
Yep.
Why? Because nobody's really made money, right? So whenever people are given like 10-15% in 2 weeks, kunin na nila yan eh. Diba? It's very different environment. When everybody has been making money for so long periods of time, then that fervor or that excitement becomes a lot more sustainable, right? So it's a lot of depending on where you are. That's the reason why even in terms of the third part of the FTSR, which is sentiment, if you don't understand macroeconomics and from what's happening from a bigger picture, right? Because I tell people from a business standpoint, you're only looking at yourself. Or if you're a job, you're only looking at yourself. Sometimes you look at the entire industry and then you expand to how the Philippine economy is doing. But more importantly, you have to look at things from a global perspective. Because what really drives valuation and prices, again, would be foreign participation. And if you don't see how other people see the markets, I mean, if you're only looking at your lens and you're not seeing how other people look at the stock market, you'll be succumbed to and blinded to what you believe in. Instead of what and believe me, the markets are a general consensus of how everyone looks at that particular stock and market. So, pag sa'yo guwapo, diba? Kasi we think we're doing so well. Pag tingin ng foreigner sa atin, papangit yung lahat. Diba? Hindi na naakit yan. Diba? So you're trying to put everything in all the lenses and trying to figure out, okay, we have a thesis here. I think this is a great company. What does the market think? What do people think? They don't think. They think, siguro okay naman, it's decent. But to the foreigners, pangit, hindi aakyat yan. That's the problem. Now, there's some instances that maybe umakyat. But again, I'm just sharing to you that you have to look at it from all lenses. I think that's the point. Instead of just focusing on what you see, you also have to see what other people are seeing. And then it will give you a higher... and even if you know all those things, hindi ka pa sure kung aangat pa. Okay? Hindi ka pa sure. Right? But at least it gives you a higher chance of winning.
So it's really working on probabilities when it comes to look at the markets.
Yeah, and I guess that's the second part. Right? We talked about first one is differentiating retail and professional. Second part is thinking from a probabilistic standpoint, which is you're correct. Right? Because for us, everything is what we call probability stacking. So technicals, okay. Fundamentals, okay. Market environment, okay. Risk entry and probability to lose, okay din. So again, you stack all these probabilities in your favor, there's a higher chance again of you winning instead of just simply looking at charts.
So I think when it comes to trading talaga, people come into the markets, there's this opportunity, ganito lang pala yan, mag-click lang ako, pwede na ako kumita, di ba? Sabi ni Warren Buffett, ganito lang. Pero at the same time, Warren Buffett is an investor. There's another lens that you need to take a look at trading. Between that FTSR, is there a holy grail dyan fundamentals, hindi, yan yung holy grail. Technicals, yan yung holy grail. Ano ba? Meron ba? Or
Well, I don't really believe there's a secret sauce to anything in life, diba?
mm,
And that's the reason why we treat everything in trading, actually even investing, as a craft. It's something that you learn, and it's something that you get better on. And in any profession, it's always a craft. You learn things through school, textbook. At the same time, you incorporate all the experiences that you get. I'm sure as a doctor, not everything
Yes.
is in the textbook,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you have to get that feel and experience under your belt. Same thing as an architect. You
Yep.
can be taught how to draw, how to do the blueprints and everything. But when it comes to actual execution, daming problema dumarating na you won't be able to see
unless you do it.
unless you do it,
Yeah.
right? Or unless you have that experience on there. And I feel like trading, I don't feel. Trading is exactly the same thing. You have to go through that textbook and learning and understand all these different things in school, whether it's investing, valuing businesses, understanding how supply and demand work, and at the same time, getting that experience under your belt. So you'll also be able to see all those things that you learn.
And parang for me nga, it's a harder profession compared when it comes to, let's say, engineering, I mean, like,
Oh, I
everything's
beg to
hard.
disagree.
I think it's because of how money is always on the table, and then it comes in. It's a you versus you thing. Na I think when you're a beginner, you think it's you and the market. Na the more you know, the more indicators that you do, yun yung way of you making money. But in reality, it's really on how you manage yourself and how you take a look at the markets, how you analyze the markets, how you be in flow with the market. Doon na papasok yung it's a you versus you thing. Right? Compared when you see other like professions, diba? It's how you do, let's say, how you handle the patient, how you do the building, how you do the construction. But when it comes to trading, parang yung emotions mo, di ba? Kaya sabi mo yung mental wallet right? Yung quicksand na you bet, talo ka na, yung next trade mo pala doon ka panalo, pero you're already physically and emotionally tired.
Well, I like it to look at it from... No, I guess in that perspective, yes, that's true. But again, from how I look at things, the engineer, the doctor, extremely difficult professions in my opinion. And the good thing about those professions is that once it's difficult also to learn, it's much more difficult to become a doctor, in my opinion, to learn all these different studies of engineering and whatsoever. And the good part is the floor is higher. Meaning once you become engineer, right, usually your floor is higher because there's always in demand. Diba? To a trader, it's easy to learn, like what I said, but very difficult to master. And that's the part where the floor can be to the depths of hell. Right? Kasi talo ka ng talo hanggang nalugi mo na diba?
Yeah.
For many individuals, I feel like many individuals are running like a headless chicken. They don't know, but they're already dead. Because a lot of them, from the very beginning, fail to already put in the effort and the time into learning all about the stock market, right? They just get carried away by the emotions of the stock market, the highs of doing well. It's the reason why a lot of people get exploited in any speculative asset, including in cryptocurrency, right? I'm not saying people don't make money. I'm saying majority of those who go into those will likely be exploited by the ones that know the stock market. The money of the many go into the hands of the few. And I feel like that's a common case in trading, right? That the ones that are able to take advantage of people's, ignorance? I don't know what the term is. I don't want to be mean. But it's just moving from people who don't know into people who know how the markets are, which are very few in my opinion.
You've been teaching the students. So ako din yung experience ko teaching retail traders, and one of the themes that we often get is they want to go to trading because they want to make that their full-time income, or they want to be full-time traders. So do you think it's something people should pursue?
Well, 2 episodes ago, I told them not to do it, not because of trying to discourage people, but it's more of understanding that it's a difficult business. And like what I said, I think a couple of episodes ago, was about mediocrity, which is nothing wrong. Again, you want to be that way, have that mediocrity type of level, which is fine, right? It's just not going to happen in the stock market and trading, right? I really don't believe there's room for mediocrity in trading. Similar to like a professional athlete. there's really no room also for mediocrity for
Yeah.
a professional athlete. It's either you're in the top bracket of the NBA or PBA, for example, or wala ka talaga.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? There's no way na you can be average in any professional athlete. And I really do believe trading is in that similar category where you really have to be dedicated and you have to love the game as much as you can. That's the reason why I'm so happy with some of the kids that we have lately. Sorry, kids, no? But the fresh hires, right?
Yeah.
Because the fresh hires, when you look at them, they're not there yet, obviously. But their love for the game is very high.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? They ask questions, they put a lot of work. They look at it from not just one lane, which is just simply trading and stocks, but they're really looking at it from a bigger perspective. And that's the reason why I really tell people that the next generation will always be smarter than us, right? Because we always criticize them, na baby. Might be true, right? But again, from simply like from an IQ standpoint,
Yeah.
they're really high, right? I really do believe they're higher than us. But again, they have to have high IQ and high EQ, and they have to understand that, right? Because EQ is all about seeing things not just from your lens. EQ is all about putting yourself in the shoes of the person you're talking to. And a higher level of EQ is putting yourself from a third party point of view, watching the two of you. Right? And that for me is one of the things that they don't teach in school, EQ. But it's something that you have to be very self-aware of so that you can continuously improve on.
I love how you said na in trading, it should be, there's no room for mediocrity.
There isn't talaga.
Kasi parang this industry is a industry wherein it's dog eats dog, right? You make money, another person loses money, and at the end of the day, how are you going to handle it if, alam mo yun, like if relax ka lang, if soft-spoken ka lang, kailangan dito every single day you need to put in the hours and really put in the grind to make it. So, what do you think is a trait that a successful trader has?
Good question. I was gonna say this. Maybe it's in relation to that question, but I think I'm a smart guy. Di ako nagayabang, but I think I'm above average, right? But I always believe that there's someone smarter than me. All right? There's always going to be someone richer than you, smarter than you, mas guwapo sa'yo, and it will always be the case, no matter where you are in life. And that's the reason why, I always take it as a discipline to constantly find ways to improve myself. And that hunger and that humility also, because I always know that there's someone smarter than me and someone better than me, is also the reason why I put in the time and effort to improve myself and, try to get that consistency and discipline under my belt. Because that hunger for knowledge will never end. Right? There's no such thing as wasted knowledge in the stock market. That's the best part. There might be some things that you go through in your own industry that is worthless, right? But in the stock market, there's nothing worthless. You might lose in the stock market, good, you learn something new. You win in the stock market, good, keep yourself grounded because there's also some things that you did not maximize or did not see. It's that discipline that always makes me ask questions, which I feel a lot of people don't. Everybody is trying to unlock the secret to the stock market, and they're all trying to do it by themselves, trying to see if I can figure things out by myself. In reality, you could have just asked me and shortcut that 3 years of experience that you go through. I would have summarized it in 30 minutes. But no, they want to go through it themselves, which is, I'll say this also, it's normal. That's
Everybody
the word.
goes
Everybody
through it.
is trying to do things on their own pace. But in reality, ask that question, and you have to be hungry. Like, even till today, I still feel like I'm stupid in many things. So I'm not an expert engineer. I'm not an expert in the consumer industry. I'm not an expert in property. But that's okay. Because for me, I ask questions. I ask the experts to shortcut that entire process. And if you don't, you won't be able to see things talaga. And this goes part into the reason why I also network, diba? Because there are many things I don't understand. That's the reason why I'm trying to learn from every single person. But you have to have that. I probably shared many traits, right, from your question. 1, 2, and 3, we talked about humility, we talked about hunger, and we talked about open-mindedness. And if you have all 3 traits, keep your head down and keep on working, I feel like eventually you'll see all scenarios. And for me, it only takes one good trade in the stock market to make 20 years of sacrifice and
Worth it,
experience worth it.
I love how we talked about, the stock market and what the things you need to be successful and the things that we learned. But I think a very important thing that I noticed working with you guys and in general observation is the successful traders that I know really take into consideration their journal. So maybe it's something that you want to talk about, the importance of journaling as a trader. See, usually when people enter into the space, diba, it's really, this is how you analyze a company, this is how you take a look at your trade, this is how you fix your trade setup. But in reality, if you really want to improve as yourself, is you need to take a look at the numbers so that you know what to change, right? So the importance of journaling, especially in the business standpoint, CTS, how important is journaling for a trader and overall managing a trading business?
Oh, I think it's important for any single individual.
Mm-hmm.
And we call it the ostrich bias.
Ostrich bias.
Have you heard of it before?
First time ko narinig yan.
Okay. And sometimes I call Boston ostrich, right? Especially the old ones. Not because of anything, but when there's fire or something's problem, first thing that they do is they dig their head into the sand.
Okay.
And keep a blind eye. Right? That's what we call it, ostrich. Yung pag may problema, pag may takot, they put their head inside and say, oh, wala akong nakikita eh. And for me, if you journal, everything becomes objective. We lose that objectivity because you think you're doing well many times. You think you're doing well, you think you're doing well. Pag tingin mo ng portfolio mo, wala ka palang kinita. Because you go through wins, you go through losses. And if you ask them, where did you lose money? They'll probably give like a general overview without going into fine details as to why you lost money. And even in the ones that you did well, it would also give an objective, find ways to what you could have done better, right? And that's the reason why we journal so much, because we do a lot of data analytics and we analyze everything that we've done historically, so that when we're making future decisions, you're on the right track, diba? Try to eliminate mistakes both on trades that you lost and made money, so that you don't commit the same error going forward. And that's the funny part about the stock market, because in a normal industry, the feedback is always positive. So meaning you do well, a patient gets healed, automatic feedback is positive, right? Patient doesn't get healed, automatic feedback is negative. And that's the funny part, because I don't want to criticize, but that's how some industries are. Because they don't do enough data analytics in journal, right? Baka nangyari by chance lang eh. Diba? That's the reason why if you go to the developed countries, they're so precise. Like there's a 75.6% chance of you, right? Dito, feel lang eh. Pwede na yan.
Pwede na. Baka yun yung mangyari.
No, it's exactly it. And Philippine, sorry, I don't want to bash any, but it is what it is, right? It's nothing wrong. Just the culture of the Philippines. Lahat pwede na eh. You go through renovation in your house, daming palpak, pwede na yan. Diba? I mean, diba? Instead of, if you did that in Singapore, you'd have a lawsuit case. Maybe the next week of incompetence. Right? Because hindi lang pwede na yan. You have to do it properly. You have to do it clean. You have to do everything like no holes or whatsoever in your house, no leak, diba? In the Philippines, lahat pwede na eh. In the stock market, in the Philippine traders, feeling ko lahat ganun din sila eh. Pwede na yan.
Pwede na, kumita na ako.
Diba? Without trying to
understand
and eliminate as much leakage as you can.
I think it's a hard thing about our industry as well. Now, yes, we follow this process-based thing so that we know that if we're doing right things or not. But even if we do the right thing, it doesn't necessarily mean na kikita ka kaagad, right? Now, let's say you followed your plan, you followed all of these things, did your checklist, but at the end of the day, if the market doesn't want to reward you with a profit, you would ask yourself na tama ba yung ginawa ko or mali?
Oh, for sure.
Right? Kasi and I've seen this and I've also experienced this na I thought I was doing kumikita ako, but in reality, I was doing the wrong process. Maling habit pala yung nangyayari. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges as a trader na sometimes the market is just not on your side. Right?
And if you're looking at the screen 24/7, for sure you will do something.
Kahit pangit, pag tinignan mo, gumaganda eh.
Pwede na.
Pwede na. Bumabalik eh.
Yeah, and I agree. That's the reason why I'm always busy. You're always busy. We're always busy.
We do something.
You do something else,
Yeah.
right? With education
Yeah.
in different forms. And that's what really keeps me busy, because if there's time to not do anything, I'm also not do anything. I'm focused on the business,
Yeah.
right? I'm focused on the other aspect of the business, as opposed to like traders simply without having much to do, and you're looking at that screen every day. Every tick will have some emotional influence on you. And I put it the same
That's
case
true.
as putting yourself in a casino. Hindi ka mahilig mag-gamble eh. Diba? But if you're in a casino,
Andun ka na eh.
tas narinig mo yung cling, 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 promise,
No.
pipindutin mo rin yung,
Yeah.
yung slot machine. For sure. You're trying to understand that in those environments, you gotta move.
Yeah.
And you gotta shift. That's why I tell people, trading is a difficult business. I mean, is it profitable for me? I mean, excellent. Ask boss.
Yeah.
For sure. We wouldn't have any of these things if it wasn't for trading. But again, we look at this from a bigger perspective. And sometimes it's just one supplement of whatever we're doing from our larger purpose.
Yeah.
Right?
You mentioned business and the trading as a whole. We treat it as a business. But I want to pick your brains and ask you, when it comes to a multiplier in general, would you pick trading or having your own business?
For sure. I mean, if you can do business, do business. But business is not easy also. And the funny part is, I treat business and I treat the stock trading one and the same. Lagi akong niloloko kasi I always tell people, I always say na hindi mo na mag-compute ang mga tao. Right? And that's true. Why? Because even in small, medium businesses, for me, maraming tao dito lang marunong mag-compute. Unfortunately, I don't want to be mean, maraming talaga tao hindi marunong mag-compute. Because people go through business and the first thing that they do is do some form of distribution.
Okay.
Example, tatayo ng food franchise. Number 1. Number 2, tatayo ng retail store or bebenta ng damit. I mean, sorry, I don't want to be mean, but
that's a trend.
That's a trend.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
Here-
Does it
here
work?
in the Philippines.
Does it work? It does, right?
Yeah.
But you're looking at the few ones that work, while the rest of the other people who
Yes,
did this
yeah.
industry all
Parang may survivorship bias.
may survivorship
Yeah.
bias eh. Diba? Nagbebenta ng damit, nagbebenta ng, I mean, different, right? But for me, it's the same thing because you don't know how to compute. I always tell this to individuals. It's not worth the risk that you are going to entail. And for me, how I look at business is all about branding. And the brand is not the clothes you're selling, but yourself. And that's the best part about business today, because the barriers to entry today is zero. Why? Because the branding now can be shot out on social media, especially with the power of TikTok today, that the branding of any single name comes from the person, not from the product that they're selling.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's incredibly powerful today. Why? Because I find entertainment on TikTok, the branding is themselves, they're selling product, but in reality, the only reason why you bought that product
Because of them.
is because of that person selling you that feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
Diba? And that for me is more powerful, because then you'll have, in relation to not just that, you'll have better profit margin. You have lower overhead costs. Diba? Because a lot of people do business. I have to spend 500,000 for the franchise, 500,000 for the furniture distribution. Working capital, another 200,000 pesos. And then pag start mo, 6 months pa lang, lugi ka na.
Di ka pa nagsisimula.
Hindi ka pa nagsisimula, lugi ka na. Or let's say break even ka pa
Yeah,
lang.
yeah.
Yari ka na eh, kasi may initial
Yeah.
cost ka na eh. Diba? It's very different from a branding perspective instead of trying to reinvent, because you're buying who you are,
Yeah.
right? So people ask about, what's that famous term nowadays? Drop shipping.
Yeah, yeah.
But and saying it's work because people are doing drop shipping because of the brand, because of the person.
Yeah.
Then it works. Find out what you're good at. Find out what that brand or what you're going to be selling, why people are going to be buying your product, instead of trying to sell them the product.
Yeah.
Again, this goes to Simon Sinek selling you that why. Similar case in business today. And today, you don't have an excuse. Kasi the cost of failure today is zero. Why? Because you advertise on TikTok, kung palpak, wala.
Oh, yeah.
Laway
Wala
lang
kang
naman eh.
cost.
Diba? Wala ka naman puhunan eh.
Exactly.
Diba? The worst thing you can do is borrow.
Yeah.
Diba? Borrow from somebody else, your family and relatives. Tapos, goodbye. Diba? Tatayo ng sari-sari store, puro utang, puro lista.
Oh, yeah.
Diba? Puro ka lista sa, lista sa buwan na lahat yan eh. Kasi di ka naman babayaran eh. Diba? That's the reason why I'm not discouraging people from doing it. But everybody is there. So because everybody is there, it's important for you as an individual to find out what's going to separate you from what you're doing versus
Yes.
everyone else.
Yeah. So going back sa trading na
Sorry, I digressed a lot.
no, I think it's a beautiful thing that you brought it up kasi ngayon like what we mentioned, it's so easy to start trading the markets, but in reality, how sustainable and how can you make it into a living compared to what you sell in having an online business? Diba? Now, when you have an online business, ngayon pa lang, pwede ka na mag-bend sa TikTok, affiliate marketing, drop shipping, and all of these things. And then maybe once you have that capital, saka mo ipang trade. Is it something that people could also pursue it? Diba? Trading for business first, and then they use trading as their multiplier.
Oh, for sure.
Right?
I mean, it's a great, don't get me wrong, wherever phase you are in life, whether you're starting or you're experienced and you're successful as a business owner, or even as an individual, you need to learn the stock market.
Yeah.
And it might go through a journey of active investing, but even the active trading part, it's something that every single individual will eventually learn. Because you cannot be ignorant to what is happening to the markets today. And that's the reason why, is it possible? Oh, of course.
Yeah.
Then you'll be able to make better decisions.
Just to cap everything that we talked about, and we talked about FTSR, diba? Sentiment, and one of the things that we talk about here is maybe a real life application. So recently, a war broke out, diba, between Iran and Israel. Is this something that people should panic about when it comes to looking at the markets, or how do you view these things? Kasi diba, it affects macroeconomics, right? On how dollar and gold and all of these things move. So how do you take a look at these things, and how do you try to take a look at things in a objective perspective now without that fear of World War III or all of these things?
There's always going to be geopolitical risks. There's always going to be a war breaking out. There might see some panic happen in the short term. Let's say, for example, like oil prices shooting up in a bit, and they might cause that volatility in the stock market. But at the end of the day, post any war, 2 years after, markets always rallied. So I always view any volatility or any of these geopolitical risk as an opportunity. I mean, that's how I see it. Has that happened with, let's say, for example, recently the Israel?
Yeah.
There's nothing yet there, right? So many times, actually, some wars are non-event stuff, right? But the ones that are eventful stuff, for example, like World War I, World War II, 2 years after that drop, there's significant opportunity that has happened in the equity market.
I think that's a beautiful thing about being a trader, that you would see these things as an opportunity and being adaptable to how do you take advantage of these events, right? I mean, yes, it's unfortunate it's happening all around the world, but I think when you're a trader, you have that flexibility on really riding on these volatility opportunities, diba?
And there's a perfect example today is the South China Sea, diba? Where the Americans are flooding now some bases now in the Philippines, especially in Angeles, diba? Everybody's so worried about what's going to happen because obviously it's on our shores, and when war breaks out, we're going to be the most affected. The response to that is always the rich will be affected the most, diba? I mean, things like this, it's out of our
control.
It's out of our control, right? So things that are out of our control, sa totoo lang, we don't really try to think about it or dwell on it too much. Things in our control, that's the things that we do and that's what we touch. Again, going back, war, nobody knows what's gonna happen. But what I do know is that if something does happen, mas tatamaan ng mayaman kaysa sa mahirap, diba? What do you have to lose?
Yeah.
Pag mahirap ka, diba? Versus somebody who has everything to lose, diba? That's usually just how we see things.
Just to maybe one last question. How did trading help you be the person you are today?
Oh, it's the entire reason why I think this way. Kasi lagi mo feeling bobo ka eh. Diba?
That's so true.
The nice thing in trading is, to some, you might look like a millionaire. And at the same time, to some, you look like the most stupid person.
Yeah.
It gives you that level of humility because sometimes when you're doing well in life, you think nothing can go wrong.
Yeah.
And it's not that nothing can go wrong, except that you've just reached a level of success that sometimes all the mistakes that you've done can be come but what you've been able to achieve. The beauty about the stock market is that we've seen things drop 90% and things get wiped off the face of the planet in a span of 2 years. Case in point, one of the hottest things back in 2009, 2010 was BlackBerry. And I was the analyst for BlackBerry. Because before the iPhone, the first smartphone in this world was BlackBerry. Right? You're going to a club, you're picking up chicks. What's your BBM?
BBM yung tinatanong
Diba?
mo,
Hindi
no?
naman tinatanong ngayon, what's your Snapchat?
Oo.
What's your handle?
IG na, diba?
What's your handle today? Diba? Dati, what's your BBM?
Oo.
And BlackBerry was like what, $120, $130 per share. Our target on that stock was $160. That thing fell 90%, close to bankruptcy. And it's not just BlackBerry. We've seen so many things that have fallen 90%. And it can happen to anyone. So we always think at the back of our minds that we're all one mistake from having everything gone. And that's the reason why we're always cautious about whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
There's always some level of skepticism and scare and a hindrance in whatever decision making that we're doing. Because at the end of the day, we all know that it only takes one mistake to get you wiped out of this game.
That's true. Ako, for me, I think if there's one word, I think it's going to be stoicism. The trading the markets taught me how to be resilient in life in general. Na, diba? Markets beat you down, and then at the end of the day, you just need to pick yourself back up, learn from your mistakes, and then just keep on working and grinding. Because at the end of the day, diba? Like probability, it's a probability game. It's not every day na you miss the 100% shots that you don't take, but at the same time, not all the shots that you make would make it, right? It really taught me that there are things in life that you should lose in order to win the war, right? There are also things in life that you should give up and you should also let go, and then so that you would win the following day. Parang ano yan eh. Like, for example, death by 1,000 cuts, right? So sometimes hindi ka naman sa trading, hindi naman big loss yan eh. But sometimes because of your cuts in life, dun ka natatalo eh. Same thing in life na, di ba? For example, with your time, right? I became wiser with my time because of trading. Na I would see na yung phone ko, I already spent 4 hours in a day and I didn't feel I spent 4 hours in my phone. Di ba? Same thing in trading na you would feel na you're just, cutting 1% tapos makita mo, 10% na ba siya na portfolio ko? Right? All of these things, I think it's a beautiful thing about trading na you don't only learn financially, but you learn holistically. That's a beautiful thing about trading.
Just to add to what you just talked about, we talked about EQ a while ago. And that sense of not just seeing... Kaliloko nila ako eh. Lagi daw wala akong empathy. Empathy is like the lowest of my traits. I told Lawrence and Boss this is... People criticize my empathy because my empathy is low. But sa todo lang, I feel like my EQ is that I see things from everybody's standpoint. That's what a lot of people don't know also. I just choose not to do anything. That's the difference. And the reason why is because I always feel that somebody has something to say. Everybody has their opinions and everything. Yeah. And everybody's going through something in their life. It's important for you to understand that as an individual. And I do believe that EQ level of portion really helps you see things from... Again, not just your standpoint, from the person you're talking to, from the entire company and corporate-wide perspective. At the same time, you have to pick and choose which really you want to prioritize and want to put focus on. Because at the end of the day, our goal and our passion and our identity is whatever people might say and criticize, is really trying to help people and give people that awareness and financial hope that one day they will all pull through it as well. Diba? And again, I only learned that as you go through so much humility in the stock market. Diba? Eventually, even in life, somebody will always have something to say. When you're successful, mayabang ka. Bobo ka, tamad ka naman. Diba? Somebody will always have something to say.
Opinion sila lagi.
Everybody will have an opinion, right? But it's good to be aware of it. Don't be ignorant of it, right? Embrace it all. At the end of the day, what matters is your decision. But don't be ignorant to all these noises that are happening.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just doesn't matter. I
Guys,
think that's
if you
pretty
have
much it.
any thoughts, can comment down below. And don't forget to follow us on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, Facebook. Meron ba? Yan. And Spotify, of course.
May cheating
So, so thank you so much, guys, for watching. See you in the next episode.
All right. Bye, guys. Thank you.